Sorry. All right, it's recording now.
Alrighty.
How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. I was at your game this weekend.
Yeah. Thanks so much for being there and taking pictures. They look great.
Of course. So, what led you to Clarion?
Um, I was looking to kind of further my coaching career, and my whole family's up here. I was in Virginia at the time when I was looking for a new job and um, getting married, and my husband's up here. So it all kind of came together so that I could move back home and be close to my family, but also um, pursue my coaching career.
So you're recently married. When did you get married?
Not this past October, but the one before that. So a little over a year.
So it was pre-COVID, so you had a good time at your wedding.
Yes, yeah. It was right before COVID. I was very thankful for that.
Yeah. Were you just applying? How do you get attracted to Clarion? How Clarion attract you?
Actually, when I was looking for schools to go to, I applied to Clarion and got in. So I knew about Clarion. Um, I I've known about the PSAC for a while. I grew up right outside of Pittsburgh, so it was definitely as soon as I saw that the coaching position was open, it was definitely of interest to me. So.
I saw that the school you were before this, you kind of turned them around in a way.
Mhm.
So did you see that you could do, because Clarion has been down kind of the past few years and they really turned around this year. I've texted a few softball players saying good job and stuff, and
Yeah.
I feel like it has to be a coaching thing.
Well, I really feel like they do all the hard work. They really decide whether we get to move forward or not. They're the ones coming to the practices and everything like that. And I think a lot of it comes from believing in them. Um, I've gotten to know them on a personal level, on a softball level, and just knowing that they have it inside of them and giving them the opportunities to kind of um, take hold of that and let it shine. That's really what coaching is. As much as we do practice and we talk about the strategic parts and the mechanical parts of softball, they're here already because they're great softball players. So it's really just giving them the confidence and courage to kind of put themselves out there on the field and do the best that they can, knowing that even if we fail at some points, it's going to be okay because we're great athletes. So it's, really, it's just them. It's just, making sure that they know that they're good too.
Yeah, because when you come to college, you got college athletes.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel that coaching is just that important because they all have skill. It's just about whether
Mm-hmm.
it comes out or not. And I feel like that's where the coach comes into play in college.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Because they're still growing. It's not like high school where you don't teach from day one here. You
Right.
just,
Yeah. And it's at another level too. So getting them to understand that and to not so much be afraid of it, but kind of, take it as a challenge and to push forward. That's pretty much what the coaching part of it is, because they're already great athletes, and a lot of their um habits, whether it's their swing or their fielding or anything like that, they're already ingrained in them. They've been taught that since day one. So although we can make some adjustments, a lot of it is just making sure they know they have the ability to do what they need to do. So
so as a coach, are you big on being personal with the girls, like one on one, or do you talk with the team?
I'd say a little bit of both. I'm really, I think it's important to talk to them one on one and to get to know them on a way more, like your family. What's your family like? What do you like to do outside of softball? Because a lot of that stuff plays into the sport as well. When someone's having a bad day, it might not be softball related. So just making sure you have that relationship where you can talk it out and help the student athlete out. They have a lot going on. They have a lot on their plate. So just being that resource, someone who can listen, because usually it's just listening, when they need someone to talk to. I think it's really important, but at the same time, I'm very much team oriented, and we have to be able to come together as a team and work as a team and, know each other, so that we can be successful.
Yeah. So you came in July of 2019.
Mm-hmm.
You were preparing for a season that eventually got canceled. How did you initially come in and start preparing, and then reacted to COVID in March?
Yeah, I honestly didn't see COVID coming at all. I mean, it was kind of one of those things where I didn't want to see it, so I just didn't. There was a lot going on with the team. We were the preparation part was a lot of getting to know them and getting to know the conference and getting to know the school and, just how things work, what we can change to get better, what the players want to see out of themselves, because I'm very goal oriented. So, they've got to be able to set goals and reach them and work towards them. And I'll never forget, we were down in Florida for spring training when the first case in Florida came about in Tampa. And I remember sitting on the bus talking to them about like washing their hands and all that kind of stuff and thinking, oh, this will never, greatly affect us. It'll, it's so far off. And then we came home and we went to Gannon. We were supposed to play Gannon and Mercyhurst, played Gannon and won our first game. And right after that, we got shut down. Literally, we were walking, we said good game to the other team, and I had someone come up to me and say, I just wanted to let you know the NCAA canceled spring championships. And it was like a roller coaster of emotions. We just, the team was so excited. They finally got everything put together and won our first game. And it was, Gannon's a great team. So it was a good game. It was hard fought. And then to hear that news, it was devastating because there were seniors there who had worked hard. The team had worked hard. We made these giant steps forward, and then it was gone. It was done. And, a roller coaster is all I can say with the first year, but, I will say it made us stronger, and I think it made us appreciate the game a little bit more because it was taken away from us. So that's a positive.
Yeah, I can't imagine being an active athlete during this time because we had two wrestlers get done with the conference championships. They were ready for nationals.
Mm-hmm.
A couple days before, they said no nationals. So they went through an entire season, including conference, and then it just got shut down.
Yeah, devastating.
And the one was Brock Zacher, who's a coach now. He was a senior, and I felt so bad for him.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely is unfortunate with some of the opportunities that have been missed.
So when you first got here, so obviously COVID wasn't the plan. How did your goals look coming into a team that maybe wasn't in good shape and you thought you could turn them around? How did your goals look for them?
I'd say a lot of my goals were becoming a team. Because when I had the opportunity to talk to a lot of the players, a lot of them said, well, we're kind of in groups, or we're really close, but maybe not so close on the field. And so just making sure that learning how to work as one unit was probably my first goal. My second goal was kind of to dissect what we needed to improve on softball wise. And of course, from learning and working on those two things, a lot of different goals came out of that, like, fundraising, some of the more administrative things, fundraising, making sure that we're playing teams that made us better, scheduling wise, reaching out to our alumni and getting them involved. All of those things play a part in who we are as a program, and also making sure we set a culture, a culture of who we want to be as Clarion softball, and how we reach that culture. And honestly, we're still working on it because we have an idea of who we want to be, and it's a process. So it takes a little bit of time. for us to fully get there. But I will say we have made massive strides from where we were before. So, but probably culture was the number one goal.
Yeah. So season gets canceled. How do those goals switch for you? Like what are your thoughts when it comes to the team?
Sure. Rebounding. You know, how do we keep the progress that we've made so far alive, and how do we keep working off of that? And we did a lot of online stuff, and I'm sure online's hard, especially with a team, and everyone has different resources at home. So, we read books, we did a lot of team meetings, we tried to do some fun team activities, but ultimately it was trusting the athletes to keep up with their academics, to keep up with their, staying in shape, and to be ready for when they came back, for when we did get the opportunity to come together physically again. So there's a lot of trust and it was a lot of just explaining the situation and making sure we stay in communication with each other. And we might not have, when we came back, we might not have been on the same level that we left, but we still had a lot of people who really appreciated the game and wanted to move forward. So we bounced back pretty well.
Yeah, I can't imagine that conversation, because a lot of the coaches talk to you about their experiences and why you should do this, but no one's ever been through COVID. So how do you talk to someone, because you've never experienced it?
Yeah.
And I give props to the coaches that went through it, and obviously you guys stayed a good team throughout it, and whatever you did is working.
Well, hopefully we won't have to do it again. That's what I'm hoping for.
So how you guys have games? Do you guys have a championship this year?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yep.
that's good.
Yes, we're looking forward to it. So
Yeah, because that's the end goal.
Yeah, I will say this year is we're going through our building blocks. Will we make it to the championship game? Probably not, if I'm being real. And that's not saying we're not a good team. I'm just, realistically, we are in an extremely tough conference and there are good teams out there. But we have come so far from where we were the past couple years that it's part of the process. It's part of getting to that championship game, which might take a couple of years, but it'll come for sure.
Yeah, at least now there's that goal, because like volleyball didn't have a championship, so there's no end goal. You're playing, you're still getting better. There's still those goals, but there's no end goal to the season. That's why a lot of the athletes are here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you came to Clarion. What did your hobbies look like around here? Where were you at before this?
Where was I at before this?
Yes.
I was in Virginia. I coached there at a D3 school, and it was way different. I'm dealing with weather up here way more than I ever did in Virginia, but that's to be expected. And then before that, I was back up here in the area as an assistant coach, and softball's pretty much just always been my life, softball, family. Those two things kind of keep me as busy, busier than I need to be. So, but it's good. There's, we're finishing up season this year, and then we go into our really big recruiting season in the summer. So that's usually what keeps me going. So
how's the recruiting process look for you? Because I know like say I talked to Coach Jen in the volleyball team, and she mainly looks out of Ohio and she gets her players there. Mm-hmm. Where do you initially go to, and how does that work for you?
We are looking a lot in PA, but we're kind of expanding. I haven't really had an opportunity to go out and find players or find that one place that I want to really pull from. like you said, last year I came in July, and that's the end of the recruiting season.
Mhm.
And then the fall, I was really focused on how to get the team moving. And then COVID hit. So I haven't really been able to get out. This summer will be kind of my first time I really get to go and see a lot of players. And we're going to be pretty busy. We have some tournaments in New Jersey and Maryland that we're going to go to, along with Virginia and PA. So a lot of the neighboring states. But I'm looking for talented players who want to be a part of changing this program. So I'm looking forward to it.
You said you guys are going to tournaments in those other states. Did you pick those tournaments yourself to go to?
Yes. A lot of them are well known around the area. And also I get a lot of emails from recruits who say, like, hey, I'm going to go be at this tournament this weekend, or will you be there? So I kind of gauge how many recruits are going to be at those tournaments so that I can see the most recruits possible. But so it's kind of like a balance thing. Some I like to go to find new players, new recruits that I might not even be in contact with. And then some I go to see those recruits that contact me.
Right. Yeah, the wrestling coach kind of told me that he looks for recruits that you want, like, your children to be around. So he looks for good people. So
yeah,
I wonder how hard it is for a coach to actually get to know the player outside of the sport. How would you go about, you see a player that good on the field, how would you go about getting to know them off the field?
Sure. I actually, especially at tournaments, there's a lot of different things to look at. So I look at how they talk to their coaches, how they talk to their teammates, their body language on and off the field, how they interact with their parents, because that's a huge tell with how they're going to treat us as coaches, because we're kind of that stand-in a little bit when they come to college. Do they carry their own bag? That's as little as that sounds, that's a really big one, because I will not be carrying anybody else's equipment when they get here. So they kind of have to take care of their own stuff. And so it's getting to know them off the field is just by watching them, a little bit at the tournaments. We also try to get them on campus. I know a lot of my questions when they are on campus or when we have a Zoom call with them are geared towards, what do you do besides softball? I've been able to see you play. I've been able to talk to you about softball, but what do you do outside of it? And how do you kind of enjoy life when softball isn't in the forefront? So it's always a hard question for them, because they play all year long. So they've just, softball is like what they eat, breathe, and sleep, but I think it's important to have something other than your sport to enjoy or to relax doing, whether it's reading or just hanging with friends or anything like that. So we kind of talk about that on their visit.
Yeah, you can really get too engulfed in the sport, and then I feel like loosening yourself up will makes you better at sports. I've seen that.
Yeah.
Athletes. How do you help athletes do that? You see an athlete who's like maybe too serious and maybe they're playing stiff because of it. How do you approach an athlete like that?
Sure. Our whole team is like that. We are so much better as a team when we're being goofy and having fun.
Yeah.
And we've had those games a lot when we're, super serious and really stiff and mechanical. And I usually just try to make them laugh and tell them to loosen up, which is 9 times out of 10 really embarrassing for myself, because it's usually includes me dancing or singing, and I'm not good at either of those. But it puts a smile on their face and kind of reminds them, like, it's a game. It's a game that we love, but it's a game, and you have to be able to enjoy it. I talk to a lot of recruits about that, because they've had so much pressure put on them for going to college and playing in college, and you practice almost every day, right? You have multiple practices a day, and you have to keep your academics up. So you really got to enjoy the sport that you put so much hard work and time into, you got to want to laugh and have fun while you play it. So there's definitely a time to be serious, but making sure you have a smile on your face when you're playing the game, I think makes you a better player for sure.
When did you see yourself like wanting to become a coach? So like when you're an athlete, you're so involved in the sport that maybe like your knowledge, coaches have more knowledge no matter how good you are. Some people who maybe not isn't as good as you have the knowledge. So when did you find yourself wanting to have the knowledge about the sport, like in your mind, not just physical?
Sure. It was definitely in college, probably like the end of my junior year, when the fact that I was going to be a senior kind of set in and was a little terrifying because that's the end of your, career.
Yeah.
I realized I didn't want to give up the sport at all. There was no end for softball for me. So I had the opportunity to become a grad assistant at the school that I played at. And that first year, just learning the difference between being a player and being a coach was eye-opening. Not that I knew everything, but I thought I knew the game really well. And I still had so much to learn about it. And just that first year of seeing how much I could learn, that pretty much, said you need to be a coach. You need to keep learning about this game, and you need to really dive in and talk to other coaches about strategies and what they do. And so it happened pretty fast, but I said this to my husband. I was like, if we don't have softball anymore, I really don't know what I do. I have no idea what I would fall back on, because it just is never a thought in my mind. I've always wanted to be around the sport as much as possible. So
Do you see that in Katie, your grad assistant? Because like younger people, I think we just need wisdom. That's all we really need. We don't know it, but do you see yourself in her, or what do you see in Katie?
I think Katie would be a great head coach. I think she's on her way there. She is really good at taking in new things. So even though she knows a lot about the sport, there's a lot of smaller things that, as a coach, you have to know, whether it's logistics with your team or just how to deal with certain situations or recruiting, things that you don't do as a player. She's like a sponge this year. She's trying to take it all in and learn as much as she can. The really cool thing about it is she is willing to learn, which is hard sometimes with people who just graduate. They think, well, I'm a senior. I know everything, or I know a lot about the sport I played. And there's this whole other side of coaching that you kind of have to dive into. And she's been willing to learn that stuff every step of the way. So I think she has a really good jump start on coaching, and I'm really blessed that she's here helping out Clarion Softball. So I'm looking forward to having her back next year. That's for sure.
Yeah, I feel like it's a whole separate struggle of her being a coach with the same people, like the same age as her.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's something she probably has to learn as well, probably from you, I would imagine.
Yeah, we actually had that discussion before she came here, because I've had assistants in the past who haven't set boundaries,
Right.
and it's not fun for anyone. It makes the whole situation really difficult and maybe not as enjoyable as it should be. So from day one, she set her boundaries. Even though she's very similar in age, she's actually pretty mature for her age, and she set boundaries from day one, and she hasn't wavered with them. So I think that's not only made her a better coach, but made her understand coaching a little bit more.
Right. So, all right, let's rewind again. But when you first got here, I hear a lot of all the coaches talk about how they feel like a family when they get into the Clarion athletic department. Did you feel that initially? Who first talked to you when you got here?
I met Wendy. She was kind of my first person that I met and I really got to talk to. Trying to think after that, as soon as I got into the office, I feel like everyone stopped by, introduced themselves. They wanted to chat. It was really nice to kind of be surrounded by people who were willing to help or explain things. Jen, talked to me about scholarships. I had Jana who helped me out. Anthony, the previous baseball coach, his office was right next to mine, so he was answering all kinds of questions for me. So I had a lot of people just willing to kind of make time in their day to just answer questions or to tell me how things have worked for them in the past. So I think that was a huge help because I did move divisions, so there was some differences with just paperwork and how things rules, how things work in Division II. So everyone was pretty willing to help me out and just, tell me what's worked for them.
Yeah, Jen has so much wisdom. I don't know how she has it, but too humble. I'm not humble for people. I give them all the props, but I feel like coaches kind of have to be humble, and then I'm like, no, you're great. Like you came in here and turned the team around. And I feel like the credit should go to the girls, but I think you were like the stepping stone for them. I feel like, and I don't even know you that well. But yeah, so how many more games do you guys have in the season?
We have 2 today.
Right.
And then 4 this weekend. We've 10, 12 including today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if you had to give an advice to a young coach, what would it be? What would be your number one thing to a young coach?
Don't take anything personally and be a sponge. That would be I know those are 2 things, but I think they go hand in hand. Just take everything in possible, whether it's things you like or things you don't like. You can make a tough experience something positive for your future. So, even if you don't agree, I tell Katie this all the time, even if you don't agree with my decision, write it down, keep a coaching journal and say, I don't want to do that with my team in the future. And that's part of learning too. But also as a coach, you get, the finger pointed at you a lot too. So just keeping your chin up and not taking it so personally and, learning from decisions you make that could be better in the future is, just something I think that if you learn at an early age, you can be in the sport a little bit longer. It won't exhaust you as much. So.
Yeah, and also I've learned 2 different perspectives about leadership within the team, right? So Kate Ferrero kind of lets the team pick the captains.
Mm-hmm.
You usually know who's going to be, right? But then Jen doesn't have captains, and she lets her girls become leaders.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're both great. They both work. How are you planning on making your girls leaders?
We talk about leadership a lot because I think it's incredibly important to learn leadership, and also you're going to use it after softball. It's something you can take into life and really apply to whether your work life or your social life, anything like that. But the team gets to vote, and then the coaches also have say in the decision. But we really look for those who already embody leadership qualities. We always talk to the team about, even if you're not a said captain, you can still lead in your own way. So just because we do choose captains doesn't mean that that's where the leadership ends. We actually have a lot of girls on the team right now who aren't captains, who lead in their own way, whether it's in the outfield or maybe it's in the dugout. So even though we choose captains, we really try to bring out the leadership qualities in everyone. And also help them understand how to use them, as positives, and all the different kinds of leadership that there are. So.
Well, good. I know young men, they need a lot of wisdom. I needed it from my coaches. So, I mean, I can't relate to women, but I'm sure they need the same thing.
Yes.
And I'm sure you're doing that for them. I hope you keep doing it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Of course. You have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
All right. Bye.
Bye.